Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to a special Friday edition of Teamwork a Better Way. I'm Christian Napier, and I am joined, as always, by my better half, Spencer Horn. Spencer, how
Oh
you doing?
man, thank you. Always make me feel so good, Christian. So glad to be with you, and I feel the same way about you. I always feel completed when I get to be with my friend Christian. So, what's exciting, man? What's been going on with you? I haven't seen you in a minute.
Oh, wow. Just a lot of AI stuff. AI has kind of taken over my life, and I'm happy to succumb to my AI overlords and
You mean
help
like
them dominate the world.
the Superman where they put those AI bots to clog his lungs? Is that how you're getting taken over? What's going on?
Yes, hopefully our viewers and listeners have already seen the new Superman movie, and we haven't spoiled it inadvertently for them. But yes, yeah, I'm being consumed by AI. How are you doing?
Great. Been gosh, in the last 8 days, I've been to the East Coast 3 times. A lot of traveling. I'll just taking a minute break until next Tuesday. I hit the road again, and so I've been doing a little bit of traveling.
Wow. Well, I'm glad to have you back here, even if it's just for a few days. Great to have you. Uh, our guest is joining us from a very long distance. Oftentimes we have people that are just situated here within the United States or even here locally, but our guest is joining us from the other side of the world. Spencer, why don't you go ahead and introduce him?
Absolutely, I'm really excited to introduce to all of you listening today Scott Allan, and who's really the authority on bold execution for empire builders and creators. And we're going to talk about what gets in the way of building our empires and creating things that we're excited to do. But as I said, he's this authority on helping ambitious entrepreneurs and creators break through mental resistance and take massive action and scale with precision using a system, his signature system called the H.A.R.D framework. And he's written over 40 best-selling nonfiction books, published 2 decades of hands-on experience. Really, he spent his career engineering practical, no-fluff strategies that turn, vision into velocity. For heaven's sakes, he's Canadian and he lives in Japan for 27 years. He's got the fluff eliminated from his life. And I know this because how I met Scott is he is actually my writing coach. As I've been writing my nonfiction book and doing his best to hold me accountable. We'll talk about that in a minute. But his trademark approach is do the hard things first. It's not motivational fluff. It's psychological operating system that teaches creators to stop stalling, start executing, and build businesses that last. And so through books, challenges, courses, content, he's been able to reach millions, and he really equips high performers with the tools to kind of beat procrastination through identity-based action. I'm excited to learn about create high leverage content and offers with speed, scale their businesses by doing those uncomfortable things that we never want to do and we always want to avoid, Christian, and build personal and financial freedom through bold daily action. He's an example of that, living his best life over there with with family and friends in Japan. So he's whether you're listening to this as a solopreneur or you're scaling your first 6-figure, 7-figure, you want to get to that 7-figure kingdom. He's a mentor that will really you want to have in your corner and really stop what's getting in your way and avoiding what you want to start building with. So let's bring on Scott. My gosh, there he is to the right. Welcome, Scott. Good to have you.
Well, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me on the show.
So glad to have you. Now, I've known you it's been almost 2 years. About 2 years when you started coaching me on my book. It's finished. And what's interesting, we were joking before about, I never procrastinate. This book has been 10 years in the making. I've procrastinated so much, Scott, and you have certainly helped me. And I'll tell you one of the things that I noticed when I had lack of clarity, and that's, there's a hard thing to overcome. Personally, this is just my experience. Being an entrepreneur takes a lot of energy. being a business owner takes a lot of energy, and I find myself procrastinating on the things that will drain my energy the most. And for me, it was getting over this. I didn't know how to create clarity of all this content that I'd written in a way that was formulating. And once you helped me figure that out, the energy came back because I wasn't blocked by this thing that was sucking all my motivation out. And I found that very, very interesting. I don't know if that's part of the framework, but because we didn't really talk about that when we were coaching, you were just helping me get through to our next step, right?
Yeah, for sure. I was saving that for the end, just in case I had to pull out an extra card.
No, we'll talk about that. But let's just get us started here. Where did this, what's the core of the H.A.R.D framework, and what inspired you to create it? And was there something hard in your journey that really started it all off?
So I'll go back. Probably everything. I think when I left my corporate job in 2019, it was just before COVID, and I decided to get into I was already writing books and already had 15 or 20 books out, I think, at that time. But I thought that I was ready to start my business, dive in full time. And as it turns out that once I really got into it, I probably spent the first couple of years just really spinning my wheels, COVID aside and all that mess. What I recognized in myself after doing a deep dive into, the things that were holding me back, realized I was spending 80 or 90% of my time on activities or tasks that were, yes, to your point, draining my energy. So I felt drained every day. I thought that I was really busy, and I probably was, but I was really busy doing a lot of things that weren't moving the needle. And, if you think of the needle from 0 to 100, I was probably between 0 and 10 or 20, right? And I think a lot of entrepreneurs and business creators are in that situation where they're really busy. Maybe they're putting in 16, 18 hours a day, doing a lot of hard work. So I think a lot of people work hard. It's just that they're working on a lot of things that makes them feel productive. And the reason I wrote Do the Hard Things First in the beginning, when I came up with the concept, and the H.A.R.D framework actually came out a little bit later than the book. I put the book out there, and then later I thought, well, I need a framework to go with this. I need my Miracle Morning framework, by H.A.R.D. He's got his framework for that. Whenever he talks about that book, he talks about his framework. And I realized that was the part that was missing. So I developed that a bit later. But once I started applying that to, pretty much everything in my life, if I was having an issue with my banking, it's well, what am I avoiding with my banking? If I had an issue with in my relationships, you can really apply this framework to just about anything that you're struggling with. But back to the business, I had to apply it to my business because, first of all, I was running out of cash, couldn't figure out why. I was making pretty decent money, but I was overspending because I wasn't tracking expenses and taxes and all this stuff. And those were the things that I was avoiding, which, if you're trying to build a business as an entrepreneur, you probably shouldn't avoid where your money is going. And that was the one thing that was probably scaring me the most, is actually knowing where it was going. So I decided that I didn't want that to be my obstacle anymore. It got to the point where the pain of that got to be so bad that I thought, I need to come up with a way to actually get myself out of this, So that was when I realized I just need something that's going to be getting me started on doing the hard thing. First of all, identifying what is that hard thing that I'm avoiding, taking massive action towards it right away. Just repeating that, rinsing and repeating that for the next thing. And the last thing is delaying the reward, delaying because before I would flip it and I would go binge Netflix first, and then I would think about doing, the hard thing. But I never got around to the hard thing because there was always I'm just using Netflix as an example, but there was always that next fun thing to do, and it just developed into this deeper level of, I'll call it chronic procrastination, because that's why I wrote the book, because I was really stuck in the middle of it, at the very bottom maybe. So.
I have Christian, I have so much more, but one of the things that I was really questioning is what the last thing you said is delay gratification. And there's this idea that's out there when you're actually trying to do hard things, you want to celebrate steps along the way. Are you suggesting not to do that, or are you saying, listen, let's make the reward connected to after we've made a commitment, right? Uh,
Mhm.
because I see I want people listening to this say, there's a lot of high performers out there that never celebrate or
Hmm.
never reward, and I want to make sure that's not what I'm hearing is delay the celebration or the reward. There's still a reward. Just make sure that it's tied to having after you've done the difficult thing. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, let me clarify that a little bit too, because delaying gratification doesn't sound like a lot of fun. In fact, we want to have some fun, and that's actually what I'm promoting. So if we have, let's take a big project, right? And if you take a project and you break it down into micro steps, right? And that's actually what this is designed to do, is to break things down into micro steps. So if I have a project I'm working on, let's just say I'm building a new website, that requires days, weeks of work maybe, and a lot of hours to put in. But there's a lot of tasks in there. So what I'll do is at the end of every task, I'll go through the hard process and identify what is the one thing that I'm avoiding here, attack it, rinse and repeat the next day, and then instead of delaying the gratification, like I'm actually delaying it until I'm finished that task. I don't have to finish the entire project because we do have to have fun and reward ourselves, right? So if I'm just using the project as an example, I will put off, and I'll actually make a note of it. Like, when I'm done this thing, I'm going to go do, I'm going to have my fun. And it can be whatever you want it to be. If you're into eating sweets and you want to save your sweet until you're actually finished your hard thing, then that's what you should do. Put it on the counter, just like, but don't touch it until you're done. And by the way, this hard thing that we're talking about doesn't have to take you, like, it's not something that you have to work on like for days or weeks. In fact, what I do in little tip here is I have a little timer here, 10 minutes. I got another one here for like 30 minutes, 60 minutes, and I'll just set it for 10 minutes. And I know the hard thing that I'm working on because I have already identified what it is, wrote it down, and I'll set my timer and I'll just dive in and start working on it. Because here's the thing, that the hardest thing about starting anything is starting anything. Like, that's really it, right? Getting going is the hardest thing. And I find, like, if you can get going past like the 10 or 15 minutes and just breaking it down into those micro actions, you're going to start to get some momentum happening. And then you can probably go for maybe 30 minutes or 1 hour, right? Um, I know there's the Pomodoro technique where it's like go for 25 minutes and stop for 5 minutes, but I don't really use that technique I used to. But the thing is, if I'm going, and things are going really well, I don't want to have to force stop myself after 25 minutes and take a break that I don't need. So once momentum kicks in, if I'm working on that hard thing and it requires more focus, and I'm already I'm in the groove and in the funnel, I'll just keep working on it, right? But the thing is, you do have to identify what it is. You do have to start working on that thing, and eliminating the distractions is going to come once you have gotten into, we'll call it the workflow, right? Or the deep work, I think, if which is something I like to, that coin was not quit. I'm using the reference to the book called Deep Work, one of my favorite books. But that's really what I'm going for, is to, get that into that focus, right? I think where I'm going with this, though, is that like once you start working on this hard thing, you want to dive into it right away. You want to rinse and repeat for the next thing that's on the list. And then, yes, you can have your cookie or whatever it is at the end of the day or at the end of the hour. So,
Oh no. Shoot, it
Uh-oh.
just yeah, it's
did I
all right.
mention cookies?
Yeah,
Should have
hold
mentioned
Okay,
on.
cookies. Did that
we've
trigger
got
something?
dueling Spencers there. Hey,
Well,
I
what I
Spencer, you
wanted
mind
to
if
do was
I?
punctuate it with the song, and I'm gonna do it here. That was awesome.
Oh, okay. Since I've spent my entire life procrastinating, Scott, so this is really a topic near and dear to my heart. I kind of see myself in a few different situations when I kind of look at my own procrastination. There are things that I do not enjoy doing, so I put them off. There are things that are hard to do, so I put them off. There are things that take a long time to do, I think, so I'm like, well, I don't have enough time to start this now because it's going to take me a long period of time. And then there are things that are unknown, like they're outside my comfort, so I'm not really sure how to do, right? So
Mm, mm,
I'm
mm,
curious, in your experience, as you look at these different rationales that one may put, like, oh, I don't like to do it, it's too hard to do, I don't know really how to do it,
mm.
I need to do it, but it's going to take too long. um, what techniques in the hard framework can be deployed to assuage the concerns that come from these various vectors?
Mhm. You brought up a good point. So I'm going to start with, I think it was the last point there is like, there's something on my list that I need to do, something in my business that needs to be done. It requires a certain level of skill acquisition. So maybe it's a skill that I don't have. Now I'm going to use an example of building a website because probably most entrepreneurs either have a website or they're thinking about building one or they need one or whatever it is. Now, I was in that situation for a long time. I always wanted to have a website. Not a big deal. And there's so many tools out there these days that it should be easy. But I waited for a long time before actually getting like what I would call a decent website, like up and live and running, and actually making some money. But what was holding me back, like I procrastinated on this for years and I used to beat myself up about it. It's like, why can't I get this thing going? And when I actually looked at it, there were several reasons. First of all, it was kind of a big project. But secondly, I didn't feel confident in my skill sets to actually create the website until I read a book. I think it was called Who Not How. You guys may have heard of the book. And it's like, well, do I have to be the one to create the website? I have to have it done. It's essential because I'm going to be selling products from there, which means making money, which is something that, if you're building a business, you need cash, right? So I knew it had to be done. I thought, well, wait a minute. Maybe my hard thing isn't, and this is where the clarity came through. It's like, maybe the hard thing isn't me going in and actually starting on the website. Because actually, I did that. I started to build it and I got stuck and I, just went away from it and said, no, I'll do it later. Not really so much another name for procrastination. It was really just task avoidance, right? I was avoiding the hard thing because honestly, I didn't want to do it, but I had to have it done. And that's the thing. So I thought, well, wait a minute. I could hire somebody to do it. Maybe it might cost me a bit of money, but what if I just went onto Upwork and hired someone for this? And, that's what I did. I went out there and I just outsourced it to somebody who came over. And it's not a big mystery. I mean, lots of people I think probably outsource stuff, but there was something about this project that I had convinced myself I had to be the one to build it. When in fact, my goal was just to have it, like just have it as one of my assets, right? I wanted a website, that was it, but I didn't have to be the one to, build it. So hired someone, brought them in. A few weeks later, I had my website, and then yeah, sure, there was maintenance afterwards and things like that, and that was it. So I thought, okay, well, what else am I putting off that I've convinced myself I need to build when in fact I just need to maybe outsource it? And as long as I have some cash coming in to pay for it, then it should probably pay for itself. So that's part of like again, like the hard thing, if I were to apply it to that situation, is like I highlighted the thing that I needed to get done, which was build a website. Instead of me attacking the project and going all in and trying to get it finished, which would have just taken me like so much time, I couldn't have gotten anything else done in the business. I just went out there and hired somebody for it. And then I did the same thing whenever I came across, I need a landing page built out, maybe I can just hire someone for like $50 to do that for me. And so that became my, like the who not how, like who can I hire to do this thing? It sounds like an obvious move. I mean, really, but you'd be surprised at how many people I talk to and they're like, yeah, I just spent the last 3 days building a landing page. And I'm like, well, you could have outsourced that for $40. And they're like, yeah, but this is like a skill I really wanted to have. And I was like, but that's the thing is like doing a lot of these things that we think we should be doing are not the needle movers. This puts us in the 80% of things that we probably shouldn't be doing. So on top of that, I made a list. On the left side was like all the things that I don't want to do anymore and probably shouldn't be doing. It was a long list. And on the right side of the things, like the needle movers that I should be working on. And it should be a shorter list than it was. It was like maybe, 40 things on the left, 10 things on the right. And once I had those 10 things on the right that were my priorities, I cut it in half again. So I only had 5 of them. And I realized like, oh, those are the things I should be working on. So anytime I found myself over on the left side, and I had to keep this list handy, I still do. I have to keep it like nearby because I drift off and I start, checking email for like the 10th time that day, or working on something, or tinkering around. And you really have to be careful because it's a slippery slope. And especially what kills a lot of, like drains a lot of energy and kills a lot of businesses actually is not always like, you're short of cash or whatever it might be, or employee problems. It's boredom, right? And Tom Bilyeu of Impact Theory has said this a lot. He's like, what kills most businesses is boredom, or what kills most entrepreneurs is like just getting bored of doing the repetitive tasks, when in fact it is the repetitive tasks, if they're high level tasks, are what actually over the long term, doing these things consistently, that's how you build your business and start to put those pillars into place. So yeah, I hope that all made sense.
Well, one of the things I'll highlight there is I'm surprised, and I'm not surprised when you say one of the things that kills business is boredom, because I have found that one of the things that creates engagement with employees, it actually is one thing that causes people to love their work, is a challenge. Now, what's interesting, what may seem ironic, is maybe making that landing page is the challenge, right? But really, what the challenge is getting that landing page up and going and seeing that operate, and then doing what you need to do to go out and make that work. Not necessarily doing the mechanical things that that you can outsource. I have a contrarian approach to the whole strengths based leadership, and they say just focus on your strengths. I find that when it comes to utilizing your competencies, however, strengths are the way to go. And but when it comes to your communication and your leadership style, then work on those things that are your weakness. But in this case, what we're talking about is if I get to a place where I'm not motivated, I'm not excited, and that can happen, what I'm hearing you say, when we are using 80% of our energy doing things that are low value activities, and we're not seeing a return, and we're not seeing the company grow or succeed. Now I'm losing motivation, and I'm losing my engagement to really take massive action to have my business succeed. So I've just shot myself in the foot. That's how I interpreted what you said.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. I mean, I found myself there in the last week or so, just feeling bored, not challenged. And I started to look at the things like, what am I actually working on every day? Am I waking up early enough, doing the things that I used to do that filled me with that? There's actually an energy problem. Yeah, the excitement and energy. Yeah, it was just missing. Yeah.
Right, and when you do those things, maybe that's the big picture. It's but you do say that that entrepreneurs don't fail from a lack of strategy, but from avoiding 1 to 2 uncomfortable actions. And why do you think that's so common?
I think it's common because we're used to. I mean, I was used to just doing everything myself. So, and this was everything like formatting a book to doing keyword research to like doing things I could probably have outsourced really easily. I used to call it, I think I called it a strategy. It was like, it was my book publishing strategy, when in fact I was just filling up my calendar. I don't even think I had a calendar. I just was waking up and hands on keyboard, and I was just working on random tasks because it felt good. It just felt like, well, it felt good. It doesn't mean like I wasn't getting anywhere with it. Right. It felt good for a few hours, but when actually, here's the thing is like, you can always tell if you're getting ahead by, and I'm borrowing this probably from Alex Hormozy. I think he said, like, if you want to know if you're doing well in your business, like take a look at your bank account and ask yourself if you're satisfied with that. Right. And I thought, okay, like, am I struggling financially? Like, and I kind of went through that. And it's like, well, my bank account could have probably be bigger if I was working on things that were actually bringing in more money instead of, like just using formatting a book as an example. It could be anything, right? But that's when I realized, like, yeah, something definitely has to change, because when I started working on a couple of things that were challenging, but were also bringing in money, selling things actually filled me with excitement. I really liked it when people clicked on that buy button and bought one of my books or my courses or something like that. So I thought, I'm going to do more of that, so I started leaning harder into that. But that's the thing is, like, we do get trapped in, again, just going back to like the 80/20, that the 80% of those tasks, because, well, first of all, a lot of the tasks on that list are comfortable, right? So, and I think we all gravitate towards comfort, and we do live in a world where like comfort is, celebrated, right? Like, hey, take it easy. Oh, you've been working for the last couple of hours, like take a rest. And I'm not saying we shouldn't take a rest or take it easy, but it doesn't have to be like, you have to, you don't have to be taking a rest like every hour, and I just found that like that's kind of interesting. Where like I had an entrepreneur once, they were explaining where they came back from their vacation, and then they had to take a break from their vacation. It's like, and they were missing out on work and stuff, and their vacation just extended into their work week and a work month, and by the time they got back to work, it was like a real mess, and they didn't have anybody else working in their business, so he was the only person working in it. So anyway, point is, you can imagine that situation where you have to be, if you're the only one working in your business, and a lot of people are, because maybe they've never hired anybody, maybe they can't afford to hire anybody yet, or part-time VA, full-time VA. But that's when things get real, I think, is that when you can actually hire at least one person to come in and help you out, then they get to take on those tasks that you no longer should be doing or want to be doing. I'm going to say should be doing, because a lot of the things on that list, like, I convinced myself that I should be doing them. But when I started handing them off to somebody else, I suddenly had this time on my hands where I was like, wow, like I honestly didn't know what to do. Like when I started offloading all these things that used to keep me really busy, I literally didn't know what to do. And that's when I realized, like, oh, I don't think I was actually working on like the one or two core things that were driving the business. So I started working on those, and they were hard because they were muscles that I hadn't really exercised, so.
All right. I have some questions based on the bio that Spencer went through. He used some phrases or terms that I thought were quite interesting. One of those was psychological operating system.
Mm.
I am curious to hear what you mean by that, this psychological operating system, and how that comes into play when it comes to procrastination.
So the psychological operating system. So I think it's really just another term for an SOP. But the thing is that I operated for a very long time, and I still do some days. I get lost in the weeds like a lot of people do, but I operated for a long time without having any systems, right? And, if you're building anything, like any company you look at, they probably have playbooks and systems. There's systems for McDonald's has a system, right? Let's use that as an example. If you suddenly took away their process for making cheeseburgers or whatever they do, you got a bunch of people kind of running around in the kitchen not knowing what to do. But if you actually look at their process, like everybody, so anyway, we all know what the SOP is, I think, but the psychological operating system is where, the operating system actually, it's one of the pillars of your business, right? Like, I mean, you have to know, how everything is running smoothly from A to D to C to Z or whatever, so, but not just as the building, not just as the business builder, but once you have the system, then when you bring other people onto your team, then you teach them that system as well, right? And then you train that person to train other people. And that's kind of like, that's at the stage where I'm at, where I'm able to, and I call it a psychological operating system, I think, because the psychology just came from the fact that, like, you have to understand the psychology behind why we do certain things and why we don't do certain things. And those things are also listed in the, we'll call it the operating procedure as well. So it doesn't really have anything to do with like psychology per se, and it might be just a fancy term that I coined, but it seemed to stick with people whenever we talk about it. Like, in the back end, like when I'm talking to my VA about it, it's like, hey, did you have a look at the operating system or the SOP? And she goes, oh, you mean that psychology thing you're talking about? Like, yeah, because you have to, like understand why we're applying it to the business and, when it matters. So.
Yeah, but you talk about, Scott, rewiring. And that's a psychological term, right? I mean, so when you talk about this hard framework, highlight, approach, rewire, and delay, rewiring is really working on the operating system. Why don't you talk a little bit about how that happens? I mean, I think you started to allude to that a minute ago when you're saying, hey, I started getting excited about doing these money-making activities, right? And so you started to lean into those more. I'm assuming that's a little bit about what you were talking about. Can you clarify that how do you rewire to start focusing on those hard things that move the needle?
Yeah. So I had to rewire my call them bad habits, right? Um, a lot of my habits were, like a lot of people, gravitating towards what was comfortable, right? So I was wired for comfort, basically, is what I'm saying. But that wasn't what was going to get me from here to there, right? So let's just use the hard framework again. Like if we highlight the hard thing, we attack it, we do that thing, it's gonna really sting when you first. It's gonna hurt actually, like when you first, not physically maybe, but I mean it did mentally. Like it felt uncomfortable. We'll put it that way. Like it was a very
Well, yeah, I mean,
uncomfortable.
you're looking at all the overspending, right? You talked about your bank account, all the things that you're spending money
Yeah,
on that you don't want to. That's, I wrote that down because I'm like, I need to do that,
yeah.
and it's
Well, that's
hard.
actually a really, yeah, yeah, and that's actually a really good example. I'm going to go with that because that's probably the number one thing that I avoided. And to be honest with you, to this day, I have to have that on my calendar at the end of the month. If I don't have it in front of me that, hey, today's the last day of the month, I'm supposed to be printing out the credit card receipts and all these things. If I don't have it written down on a sticky note in front of my computer, even though I've been doing this for quite a few years, I will intentionally, or maybe subconsciously just say, no, maybe I'll do it tomorrow. I still procrastinate on this thing because it is hard and it is uncomfortable. But the thing is, when I actually do it, and here's the thing, when it gets done, when I start to work on it, and it maybe only takes me a few hours of the day, it's like, wow, okay, that wasn't actually that hard. And now I have clarity on where all my cash went. And honestly, like until I actually started doing this thing. So the thing is, like, it actually, it did rewire me because it rewired me to the point where, like, if I didn't do it, I felt it the next day. It's like, okay, yesterday is supposed to be the day when I was supposed to look at all my statements and everything, because sure, I have an accountant and I have someone else who helps the accountant, and, because it's all in Japanese. So I need an interpreter for the accountant to talk about all the money stuff. But I still have to know at the end of the day, I have to know where things are going, because even the accountant's not going to like figure all that out. But that was the thing, is like, it was really uncomfortable for me to do that, because the reason is I spent a couple of decades not really, like, never had to do my taxes. I always had a corporate job. I would just like never had a budget, would just spend money whenever. Wasn't really building a business because my book, so-called, well, it became a business later, but it was really more of a hobby until it started to make money. But the rewiring part of it came in when, like, it became, I wouldn't say it became a habit that I enjoyed, but when I got it done, I was able to relax afterwards. And yeah, I could, eat my donut or whatever. Like, that was where, if I was delaying my gratification, it was like after that, I would treat myself to something nice. But I think it's like, there are certain things where they just don't become natural habits, right? Unless maybe you're doing it every day. But I mean, I used to do this like at the end of the month, and I made it at the end of the week. Actually, is when I'll actually sit down. I'll go through the numbers at the end of the week, and now I'm getting into the habit of just doing it 10 minutes at the end of the day, right? So I went from like doing it at the end of the year. By the way, I used to cram my taxes. It was a mess. I mean, I'm telling you, like, I almost missed the deadline. Talk about self-sabotage, because I would save everything towards just like our tax season here is well, for our business it's in November, and personal taxes is in March. So I used to file only personal taxes before I had my business. But point is, like, I would just save everything until like the last few days and just not sleep at all for like 3 days and get it done. And I mean literally not sleep, right? You don't want to be in that situation, but I did that continuously every year, and I had a whole year to work on, receipts, but my intention was at the end of the month to do this hard thing. And this is, by the way, leading back to why I wrote the book, was probably because of that one situation that I never got in trouble with the tax. I always paid my taxes and always somehow got them filed on time. But it was painful, right? And I thought, maybe I could help other people like avoid doing the same thing, just by coming up with a simple framework that works. That's, not going to like take half their life away. So, yeah.
Well, the tax thing that hits me in the feels. We just went through that this week. Monday was the dead for people who filed extensions, which I always do. Uh,
Mm.
you know, folks with S corporations. had to get theirs done by Monday, the 15th of September. And so I was doing exactly what you just described. I had waited till the very end and then crammed everything in and got the thing in the envelope and sent off about an hour before the post office closed. So here, you can't file the state ones electronically. You still have to mail them. But the
Ooh.
federal,
I need to introduce you to my accountant, Christian. He does a
I
great
still
job.
do my own. That's another thing. It's like maybe I should be paying somebody to do this,
We
but I
still
got
we
an
still do
accounting degree, even though
extensions.
I'm not a practicing accountant anymore. I'm like,
Yeah.
I can do my own taxes.
All
Come
right, I have a suggestion, Christian. Why don't you write a book?
on.
But I think it's fascinating that what Scott, when he finds that he has a challenge, like, okay, one of the ways that you figure out how to fix that is like, I need to study what I'm doing, and then you become an expert as to what you were doing wrong. I love that, and so it started with you. Now
Mm.
transition. I think you alluded to that a second ago. How have you seen this help other people? Let's take this to some, maybe a case study beyond
Mm.
you, to some of the people who have either you've coached or who've read this.
Yeah. Yeah. I was working, let me see now, because I worked with a lot of entrepreneurs over the years. So, uh, yeah, yeah. Okay, yeah, yeah. So one person I was working with, they had a medical practice, and one of the things that they had to do was transfer all of their physical papers into digital papers, and it was like this big process, right? And it had to be done by a certain date, or else they were not going to get their license renewed, something like that. So, but the thing is, like, the CEO or the owner only had a couple of other people working in their office, right? So that meant like she actually had to do it, right? And when we talked about it, it's like it had to be done by a certain date. Every week we would meet for, like it just basically, yeah, we would meet once a week to have a coaching call and talk about, is this thing moving forward? And it wasn't moving forward, and it had to move forward in order for her business to survive. It's like, okay, well, what's that? We had to identify like what was holding you back. First of all, it's like the fear of moving it from the physical to the digital, and there's just like so many files. I was like, well, we can only do one file at a time. And this is one thing that's really important too, is like, if you have a big project or something like that, like a lot of people get overwhelmed. I mean, I think we all get there. Tax is another example, right? It's like very overwhelming. And I think I got really good at just taking that big thing and just breaking it down into one paper at a time, right? If I had to use David Allen as an example, I think he mentioned this in his book, getting what is it, like getting things done or something like that. Like he said, like, just if once he moved a piece of paper from here to there, he didn't touch it again, right? So we had to develop a system where, she was able to, first of all, put in 1 hour a day on this project. She was just going to do like one paper at a time. It sounds very obvious because, we can't really multitask very well. We can only do one thing at a time. But when you have the whole thing just kind of in your head, it lives there, right? And if you're not taking action in the physical world, well, you just don't get it done. It's just a dream, right? So yeah. So we had to break this down, and can't remember at the time if I actually had the H.A.R.D framework or not, but I was actually using it, whether I was aware of it or not. So it's going back a few years, right? But yeah, we had to highlight like, okay, what's like the one thing you can do even right now while we're on the call that's going to take you 10 minutes to do. And she kind of looked around her office and she found it and she did that thing. And I'm like, great. And we had like an hour for the call. It's like, okay, well, what's the next thing that you can do? It's like, I'm not going anywhere. Go do that thing right now. So we actually just started to execute on that right on the call. Whereas, when she was like kind of left to it, and this is like, very smart doctor. I was like, had, like 6 degrees and everything, but this one thing was just really holding it back. She didn't have a lot of help with it either, but she just needed a little bit of guidance to show her like, let's just break this down one thing at a time. You're going to do it 10 minutes at a time. You're going to start to, get this moving anyway. And that was the most important thing. Probably took a few weeks to get the whole project finished. But she did. She got it. Everything transferred from the physical data, or the physical papers were all in digital data, and then they had their new system. Right. She brought in somebody else to build out the system like digitally, but yeah, she had to like transfer all these the client's notes and everything into the computer. So anyway, that was a story. Not the it was just it was good to see it because she actually succeeded at getting it done. I've seen other people who sometimes they just couldn't get the thing done. I mean, I'll use just one more quick example. Book writing is another one of them, right? I worked with a lot of people that never even started their book, or they started it and they never finished it. I mean, it only took you 10 years. That's good. I mean, at least you got it finished, right? Or 2 years or whatever, right? So you got it done though. That's the important thing, right? But
well,
I
I'm
know a lot
still editing. I'm still having an editing issue. So I've got a few things. Yes, it's written, but I found some redundancies. And so I'm like, crap, I've got to fix, and I'm reading it and trying to fix all of that. So it's because I want to make sure that I like it when it goes out.
for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
But what was the reward that she gave herself when she finished that big digitization
I believe
project?
she went on vacation. I think they went to Disneyland, or she took her kids to Disney or something.
See, that's
like
what I'm talking about. For me, it's
So I think she was in Florida, so they weren't in Orlando, but yeah, they were near enough to go there for the weekend. So.
Hey, Christian, before we have another question, we do have a mention our sponsor.
Oh, let's do it.
So we are fortunate enough to be sponsored by Team Coaching International, and Team Coaching International is a great organization that helps coaches and practitioners of team performance. Which that's the whole focus of our podcast here is how do we get it more engagement? How do we get people producing? Teams exist to produce results. Well, one of the ways that team coaching does that is they've created an incredible diagnostic that helps you to identify 7 productivity elements where you're at with that with your team, with your organization, and then 7 really cultural, or what we call positivity elements that really help you to sustain that productivity. And so those 2 elements of the model, productivity, positivity, we help you identify where you're at so you can really target your training and development forces to get do the hard thing that we've been talking about, right? Sometimes one of the things that most teams really struggle at, for example, is having productive conflict. And they want to avoid conflict at all costs, but when you do it right, it's super helpful to the team. Well, this helps you to identify where the team is struggling. So if you are watching this and you scan the QR code, you will be able to register for a free version of the team diagnostic, which is called the Team Leader View. And we'll sit down with you and really go over that and show you how the process works. And so that's a great give that Team Coaching International is giving to our listeners for free. If you're listening to this, we'll have the show notes link that you can go to and get your team diagnostic. So thank you both, Christian and Scott, for letting me highlight that.
Well, thank you, Team Coaching International. Super great to have them on board. We appreciate their support very, very much. Scott, I want to come back to the bio once again that Spencer read, because there was another term in there that kind of caught my attention. That phrase was identity-based action. And I'm really curious to learn more about what that means.
Mm-hmm. Okay, this is a good one. So for many years, I called myself a procrastinator. Like I would literally just say it. Like I would say, like if there was something, close in the corner, I'd just say, no, I'm not doing the laundry because I'm a procrastinator and I'll do it tomorrow. I would literally just identify myself as that thing, right? And I think somebody had pointed it out to me. It's like, you've got to start labeling yourself something else. Like start calling yourself an action taker, right? And I would actually push back, go, yeah, but I'm actually not. I mean, sure, I could write books and this and that, but there's other things that I had to get done that I wasn't doing. And so whenever, I don't know, could be balancing the books or whatever, doing taxes and all that. It's like, I would look at it and go, yeah, I'm not going to do it because, I procrastinate. So that became my identity, right? I realized though that identity is anything that when you take action on something, if you go to the gym, or don't go to the gym, right? I mean, that becomes your identity. But let's just say if you go to the gym 3 times a week, 4 times a week, once a week, and you call yourself a bodybuilder and you're like, yeah, I'm getting into shape. I mean, that becomes your identity. Even if you may not believe it in the beginning, maybe you're just starting out and you haven't been to the gym before, but how you talk to yourself, not just talking to yourself, like self-labeling yourself, your self-talk, but your action, those two things combined, that becomes your identity. So you really have to be careful with how you are labeling yourself. Because I work with a lot of people, and what they'll actually say is like, they're like, yeah, I'm a procrastinator. It's like, no, you're not. You practice the behavior of procrastinating, but that's all it is. It's just a behavior, and you can turn that around, right? And we're going to turn it around by doing this. So I've changed my identity several times. Like, if I had to give another example, okay, I mean, I used to eat a lot of junk food. Like, I would literally finish the night with like an ice cream and a chocolate bar. And I used to go to the gym and work out and stuff like that. But I would literally like I would, stuff myself full of sugar. And I would just like, when someone would like, I think a friend of mine said like, why do you eat all this junk all the time if you're trying to stay so healthy? It's like, well, because, that's just, I love sugar. That's what I do. And I realized like I was just feeding into that belief that I had to do that. I had to, eat all this sugar to support the identity that that's who I was. So that's what that means is like, you take action, you take action towards something that you feel, use the word passionate, you feel really passionate about. It could be a goal, right? You want to get into shape, you want to write a book, right? Look, when I published my first book or two, I didn't call myself an author or a writer. In fact, I didn't even tell anybody I had put a book out there. And I used to I used to say, yeah, it's just a hobby. I threw a couple of words on paper and put my books out there. I actually spent years writing these books, and I was actually a decent writer, right? But it took me like my third or fourth or fifth book to actually start to call myself a writer, believe it or not, because I was holding back that identity. I just didn't feel worthy, imposter syndrome. But when I started to actually say, I went from being an author to call it a business builder to an entrepreneur. That was really scary when I started calling myself that, because I was like, well, wait a minute. Don't entrepreneurs have a lot of money? Don't they drive around in fancy cars and wear expensive suits like Elon Musk? I can't be, I better just go better, and I actually find myself like kind of reverting back to my old identity. But I realized when I did that, I didn't want that identity anymore. I liked the new one. So I kept building on that new one. So that's what that basically is like, you can build your new identity through this framework by taking definitive action towards the things that might scare you, but that's where the real power is like doing the things that scare you, doing it scared. That was one of my earlier titles that I put out way back in the day, because again, like I was afraid of doing a lot of things until I actually did them. And then when I did, it's like, wow, that wasn't too bad. I mean, sometimes it was, sometimes it didn't always work out very well, but doesn't matter whether you like a lot of people are like afraid of failure, right? Sure. But I mean, I think the only way to fail is to not do anything. So.
Oh yeah. It's interesting. Napoleon Hill and, Think and Grow Rich said the thoughts are things, right? And then you've got the Heisenberg principle with Niels Bohr and Werner Heisenberg, these two Dutch physicists that really become known as in psychology as the expectancy theory, right? And it's the power of those labels and thoughts that we have. And so what I hear you say is when you use the word I'm an author or I'm a doer, I'm whatever it is that is the opposite of the behavior that you want to change. That's part of training, your brain. You're programming yourself to start thinking that you are. Typically we think we act because of how we think. That is absolutely true. But sometimes we think based on how we program ourselves or how we even talk to ourselves. And I think you can take a conscious approach to say, I am a finisher. I am an author. I am, an effective leader. Some people call that affirmations, but basically what you're doing is you're creating that repetition and programming that your brain needs for you to start acting that way. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's exactly it. And I love what you said. I'm a finisher. That's actually what I used when I realized, like, because I used to say I'm a procrastinator. It's like, no, I'm not. I'm a finisher. I finish things. And when I started using that, yeah, it is an affirmation. Thing is, you say this over and over and over again. I mean, enough times, it's like you try to go back to calling yourself that other thing. You're gonna be like it completely changes your belief system. So.
I think this conversation is fascinating. So you've really emphasized this rewire with reps concept. It reminds me of, so uh, I'm not a musician, but
Mm,
in a future life, maybe. But I have a
mm,
huge respect and awe for musicians. And there's a drummer, Mike Mangini, who was the former drummer of the progressive metal band Dream Theater. I'm a big fan, who was a software developer and told himself that he could become a drummer because he writes code all day, and he figured he could just write his own code, and he basically programmed himself to become one of the elite drummers of the world. And this is what you're talking about. Like,
I
I
love it.
can I can tell myself my story, and I can determine who I want to be. This is incredibly empowering, right? It's like, for me, who I feel like I just keep falling victim, or falling into the victimhood of procrastination. What you're charting here is a real path out of it. Um,
Mm.
and so I appreciate you coming on and spending, I can already 51 minutes. I cannot believe the time has flown so quickly, talking about this really, really important topic. So I'm gonna basically leave my thoughts there, because Spencer, I know you've got questions. We've got a lightning round to go to,
Let's just do the
and we want
lightning
to
round, shall
respect
we?
Scott's time, because it's very late in the evening, early in the morning for him over there. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Spencer.
All right. So, Scott, we're going to do a little lightning round, if that's all right.
Sure, I'm ready.
Okay. So, number one, what's the hardest thing you've done before 10 a.m. this week?
Oh, the hardest thing probably getting up before 6 a.m.
What's one thing you always procrastinate on, even now? Sounds like, the credit card reconciliation.
Yeah, yeah, it is. And probably getting to the gym. Although I go regularly, but like I'll actually get to the parking lot and try to come up with every reason why I shouldn't go inside. And eventually I go inside, by the way. Yeah. But I do procrastinate on
You got to have some conversations with yourself first. Come on.
I
I'm a
do. I do.
finisher, I'm a lifter. Um, your go to pump up song before tackling something big?
Oh, you're gonna love this one. It's Flashdance. The
Flashdance.
FIFA Flashdance. Yeah, what a feeling. Oh yeah. Yeah. You
Yeah.
play that and yeah, I can pretty much do anything. I play that before I go boxing a few times a week, and that's the song I'm playing as I'm going like driving towards the boxing club. Oh yeah.
Oh, that's great. Seeing your gloves, throwing water on you.
Usually.
Coffee, cold plunge, or journaling? What's your first move in the morning?
If I could cold plunge, I would actually have a cold shower. Not quite the same, but I'm going to say coffee with MCT oil in it.
With MCT oil in it. Okay, I don't know what that
Mhm.
is.
It's like coconut oil, and it's kind of like lights your brain on fire. A tablespoon of that, and you're good to go. Yeah.
Nice. One book you wish every entrepreneur would stop reading and start doing.
Let's see. One of my, I don't. Okay, yeah, probably buy back your time. Yeah, buy back your time by Dan Martell. I don't know if they should stop reading it, but they should definitely apply everything that's in it. Yeah,
There you go.
yeah. Or you know what? They should stop reading Dan's book and go watch his YouTube channel. That's also really
There
good.
you
So
go.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
A favorite fail forward moment that shaped your success?
Fail forward moment. Probably I'd written a book a while back and I did not trademark it, and I should have. And I realized like, wow, whenever you come up with a really good title for a book or a concept for a business, you should at the very least, if you don't copyright it, you have to try and get it trademarked, because
And I
if you
see, I
don't,
see you doing that
somebody
now.
else will. Yes, yes, yes.
You learned your lesson. That's great. What's harder, writing your first book or building daily discipline?
Ah, building daily discipline. It's still really tough for me to nail down a daily ritual.
Yeah. Most
Yeah.
surprising result you've seen from someone applying the H.A.R.D framework?
You know what? Probably here's one thing I'll mention really quickly, and it'll actually answer this question. Is like the hard framework is it's sometimes misinterpreted as a like a more productivity, but it's not a productivity framework. It's more about it's actually if you follow it and you do the things that you're supposed to be doing, the hard things, you'll make a lot more money. And that's the thing. And I've seen people actually make a lot more money by not doing all the other things and just doing the hard things first. That's the thing. And I think for entrepreneurs, that might be a big wake up call. Imagine if you could double your income in the next 3 months or 6 months or even the next year. So
Yeah. Well, that could lead to this next question. If you could tattoo one word on every entrepreneur's desk, what would it be?
Finisher.
Excellent. What's the reward you personally delay most often?
Ah. I don't delay a lot because I tend to indulge, but I would say, let's see, probably eating ice. I love ice cream, but that's the one thing that I will delay because I love it so much that if I don't delay it, I probably have my face buried in it every day.
Yeah,
Probably
me
first thing in
too.
the morning, actually. Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
so what's the, like, do you have a favorite Japanese treat? I mean, like Japanese pancakes. I mean, they have so many fun things there.
Yeah, well, they have the matcha, the green tea, like that's really
Yeah.
taken off. I think even they sell it all over the world now. Like I think Starbucks has started selling it, so now there's like a shortage of it or something. But that ice cream is really good. Yeah, so
Matcha ice cream.
matcha ice cream, you can get matcha ice cream, matcha latte, like you name it, matcha cake. It's there's no limit to that. So
You know what I like? I like the ice cream with the mochi in it.
yeah, 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 that is good.
Mochi. That's it, Christian.
Wow. Well, that takes us near to the conclusion, I guess, of this really, really important conversation. And so we're so grateful to have you join us. Scott, if people want to learn more about the H.A.R.D framework or they want to connect with you and learn how you can potentially help them, what's the best way for people to reach out and contact you?
Well, they could go to scottallanbooks.com. We have the website there. I'm in the process of, or I should say somebody else in the process of building out a website for dothehardthingsfirst.io. It's not live yet, but it will be within the first next couple of weeks. Because we're building the course and everything and getting it all set up on there. I also have a 30-day challenge for Do the Hard Things First that was launched maybe just last month. So they could always, we have that built on Stand Store, so they could always check that out. They can probably check out the link in the notes and everything. So 30-day challenge course, if they want to try that, they can go to scottallanbooks.com. We sell the books directly there. Of course, they can always find, my profiles on Amazon, and the Do the Hard Things First is in audiobook, ebook, paperback, and hardcover. So,
All right, fantastic. We'll put all the relevant links into the show notes. Spencer, you've been helping organizations build high-performing teams for decades. So how can people reach out and connect with you if they're interested in improving the performance of their teams?
LinkedIn. Just message me on LinkedIn. And Christian solving the world's AI problems. I mean, Scott, he's winning awards for the great work that he does. How can they find you?
LinkedIn as well. It's easy to find me there. Just look up Christian Napier. Happy to connect. So thank you, Scott, for giving us an hour of your time at a very inconvenient time for you. Thank you, listeners and viewers, for joining us. Please like and subscribe to our podcast, and we'll catch you again soon.